Nothing in the gate bias.
Yesterday, as we were all coming down from a thrilling high-speed race that took cup performances onto another level, there are a number of issues that were being discussed long into the night. One was what it must feel like to slingshot around the windward mark at 55 knots. I was out on the water watching the racing yesterday, and I was completely blown away at the pace of the game and how different it looks in the flesh to what we see on the screens. Seeing two boats track each other at 40 knots upwind and then throw in tacks that would give you whiplash each time, before then witnessing the high-speed, water-boiling balancing act of the bearaway at the top gate, it's more like watching motorsport than sailing. But the other issue that was being discussed was that of the protests that were made by the British in their fight with the Italians. None of them stuck, and yet aside from that, the live comms from Ineos suggested that the proximity of the boats in these conditions was making them feel, how should we say, uncomfortable.
Flag that. Protest! John Bales all the way up. Turning right. Jesus Christ. Protest!
So among those that I talked to last night after racing was flight controller and trimmer Bledin Mon, who helped to explain some of the issues that are of concern to them. It sounds like from the audio off the boat when we're listening to it that actually there were certainly moments in the pre-start and that one off to the right where you as sailors were going, crikey, that feels really close. That was sort of the gist of what was being said. And yet when you look at the umpire, the umpire animations, you think, okay, no, that's way off. Is it getting to the point that that speed, it's getting quite scary?
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? The boundaries are the same regardless of the conditions, and at some point there's the perception of, you feel that it's on edge with these boats in that kind of 20 knots of breeze, and both boats are throwing them around quite aggressively, and I think that's where the judgment call is in terms of where you feel the boundary is and how close you feel comfortable pushing the boats together, and obviously nobody wants to have any crashes, so that's the number one aim, is to avoid any of that, but we'll learn from it and have a look at how close we actually got.
Each morning, Regatta Director Ian Murray and Chief Umpire Richard Slater provide a briefing to the media. It's always extremely useful, especially when it comes to understanding how and why certain calls are decided by the umpires. And this morning, the main topic was about those 4 protests by Ineos. So here's Richard's explanation of all 4.
So we had 4 calls in the second race. The first call we had was on the entry, so the Italians had to keep clear. GBR altered course to try and block them, at which point the Italians then just tried to keep clear. I think that to us was, that's just bread and butter umpiring. Next one is the one that we've spent a period of time now talking with the Challenger of Record, and so I'll play it through. This is the one with Italy clear ahead. Both boats bear away, Italy still clear ahead right of way. Italy become the key clear boat, then they become the right of way boat, and they have to give GBR room to keep clear.
Flag that. Protest! John Bales all the way up. Turning right. Jesus Christ. Protest!
What we recognise is that, and the discussions with Challenger of Record, is at the moment when GBR become the right-of-way boat, which my fat fingers will now say here, is they think that if they then held their course, that there would have been collision or extremely high risk of that. And we understand that, and as an umpire team, remembering this is I think our 3rd day in top-end conditions with these boats, and probably the first day that we've seen boats close to each other in top-end conditions. We would still, and this was asked of us pointedly this morning, going, if we do this again today, what would the call be? And the call will be the same, but we do recognise that we need to somehow try and make us understand more about the boat manoeuvres to make sure that that is still correct. So from a rule point of view, remember we don't have a jibe rule, we just literally are you on port or starboard. And in this case, from a rule point of view, Italy are the right-of-way boat. At a certain point in time, they become the keep clear boat as the windward boat. And then 0.6 of a second later, they become the right-of-way boat again. And at that point, the pressure's on Italy, by the way, because as the new right-of-way boat, are they giving the other boat now room to keep clear? So we had Italy tack in front of GBR quicker, and they try for a hook. In this thing, we believe that they got the overlap eventually, not yet, now, and out. So we felt that when they initially became the right-of-way boat, it wasn't long before they're going to keep clear. And at that point, when they initially become the right-of-way boat, they must initially give room for Italy to keep clear of them. And then we had on third upwind leg, a similar situation. GBR come in. They become right away here. They seem to be holding course but getting closer. And this one for us as umpires, this is the one that we've spent more time discussing than any of the 4 calls. And our discussion is that how close is too close? And to give you an idea, I think they went from 9 metres when they came in to about just over 5, let's say 5, the closest between the 2 diamonds. And in previous days, that is keeping clear. It's if they were doing only 30 knots, it's keeping clear. And again, we've had this discussion going on this one. We were almost on the fence of, if it was any closer, Italy should have a penalty. If it was a bit further away, it will be a green as well. So this is sort of that point from an umpire perspective. We think we've sort of hit that tipping point.
In other news, I'm hearing mutterings that Alinghi's capsize was the result of a serious structural failure at high speed that left a hole in the boat. This might help to explain why the boat had a large yellow sheet around the bow when she was righted. We saw a similar thing with American Magic in the last Cup. From what I'm hearing, it was a pretty major incident. More on that if and when we hear it. In the meantime, there's 2 more races in store today to see if the deadlock can be broken or whether we're heading all the way down to the wire. The breeze is forecast to be in the teens again, so we could be on for another spectacular day. It certainly feels pretty similar to yesterday already. Whoever comes out on top, one thing seems pretty likely though: the intensity is not going to back off. The breeze was up at 19 knots, comfortably below the upper limit, and the racing got underway on time. The key part of the pre-start came with around 30 seconds to go, when Luna Rossa stalled out their rudder as they tried to climb above Ineos. This let the British off the hook, or at least the opportunity to control the first beat, which they did very effectively, defending the right-hand side. But at the top it was close, just 5 seconds between them. The British defended the downwind leg and gained 1 second by the bottom. At the top gate for the second time, they'd added another second to their lead to take it to 7. And then a few more by the bottom to 11 seconds. But that's nothing if you make a mistake, as the British were reminded on the next lap when they skidded out at the bottom gate, reducing their lead to just 5 seconds. One thing that appeared to have changed was the different mood and style aboard Ineos Britannia. Gone was the raw aggression from yesterday. Today they seemed much keener to sail their own race when they could, and only engaged when they had to defend. The difficulty in making a protest stick, along with the risk that it could go against them, may well have been behind this different approach. If that's what the strategy was, it had worked, and the team had not only held off Luna Rossa, but extended their lead on the last downwind leg to 12 seconds. Once again, the British were one up.
Yeah, great race. I mean, they came back well. They always had a bit of an issue at the start, but they were going well and pushed us really hard. And
guys did a nice job to defend and keep the boat on its feet. So yeah, nice race.
Yeah, we had a good debrief after yesterday's race, and yeah, that one was very close with the Rosses, so I'm sure that we've got another battle on our hands coming in the next race.
Yeah, it was a good race after that. I thought the guys fought hard and are able to be right there, just waiting for the British to make an error, and unfortunately they didn't. So, and this sort of close racing, that's what's going to take is one little mistake like that.
The pre-start for the second race of the day looked much like the first, but without the Italian skid. As the gun went, both teams were bang on the line and at speed. The Italians to windward, the British to leeward. As Ineos squeezed up, they were able to bounce the Italians off onto port. The British took their time before tacking over to square up the Italians on the other side of the course, and when they met it was close, head-to-head close. Unable to cross the Italians, Ineos tacked under their bow and tried to squeeze once again. But once again, Luna Rossa held their position. As both boats tracked across on starboard, it was staggering how evenly matched they were. Two very different designs, one apparently identical performance. By the top gate for the first time, Luna Rossa rounded 4 seconds ahead. By the bottom, they led by 6. From there, the Italians didn't put a foot wrong and gradually stretched their lead to 17 seconds, crossing the finishing line at over 50 knots. In the break between races, in answering a question as to whether he was concerned about being one down again, Francesco Bruni had said that his team were now famous for coming back. With 6 races now complete, it's easy to see his point.
It's very tense for sure, but if you want to do a good job, you have to just concentrate on your own work and you have to do your own work well and just stay focused, not get too excited and just let it roll, and that's how we play.
Dylan, at the morning briefing in the media centre here, Chief Umpire Richard Slater ran us through the 4 protests that you put in there. No doubt you went through all of that, I'm sure you did, last night. First question is, what did you come away thinking after that? Did you sort of change your view at all on those protests?
I guess we didn't change our view in terms of what we did. We just we learned some understanding of how close the umpires want the yachts to get. I mean, ultimately, the first one at the pre-start, we thought that we would have potentially killed someone if we'd have got as close as they wanted to. So there's a bit of a difference there, but they're looking at an umpire screen and they're not on the water at the end of the day.
And did it sort of change your view at all, strategy today? It seemed like you were less inclined to engage quite so close and more happy to sail your own race. I just wonder if that was a result of what you learned from yesterday.
I guess like anything, yesterday was a good lesson of you don't want to put it in the umpire's hands because, we obviously felt like 4 decisions went against us. So the more we can do to leave it out of their hands, the better.
And the first race today, cracking race, defended really well. You must be pleased with the way that went.
Yeah, great first race. You say we were pushing it hard, seemed like it was on rails, and Luna Rossa were very quick out there today. And I think, the second race was a bit disappointing that we couldn't get around them. We thought we'd done enough off the start, but they just got a little righty. And as you saw, there's fine margins, and once the yachts are ahead, it's hard with these teams not making mistakes.
Yeah, it looks like we're going back to what people have been sort of saying right at the beginning, that once you win the start, it's sort of difficult to get past.
I think when we're seeing the level that people are sailing the boat now, where we're not making many mistakes around the race course, that it's certainly tough. And it can be with that Garby wind direction, there can be one route around the race course.
So once again, we finished the day with 1 race apiece. I'll say no more other than see you tomorrow.